not just like, hey, tell me about your character, but how did you get there, and like the back thoughts behind it and all of that stuff. So I just ask questions. Hopefully I don't talk too much, and whoever I've picked, to speak, has a platform. So that's the goal. Also, for the record, ThePainTrain is an admin. Actually, it's ThePainTrain. I will fix that in a second. But just for your disclaimer, you definitely don't have to talk about anything you don't want to, of course, or any like subjects you don't want to cover. But also, none of these questions are like server specific. I'm not looking for specific new dates or like changes or any of that stuff. So your answers are just whatever you feel like sharing or expressing. That's all on you, okay? Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem.
Cool. Awesome. Also, I don't know anything about you except for like sort of seeing, some of your statements and comments in Discord, and then occasionally being on the outskirts of interactions with your characters. So, how'd you get into RP specifically? How'd you wind up where we are now? What's your sort of RP history?
Well, my very first foray into RP ended up way back in the day in my younger years. I am quite a bit older, but started with like D&D and all those types of things. I didn't really get into D&D though, and Shadowrun, and there was Heroes Unlimited and stuff like that in my college days. But after that, it just kind of went away. I just had no interest in it for a while. Just was doing my own thing. And then it's funny, I moved to Canada with my now wife. And she wasn't much of an RP or anything like that, but we started with some text-based RP. And it was kind of cool. It was just like, just become somebody. It's text-based. There was no video or anything like that. And it was just like, I'm a character. You don't see me. You don't know anything about me except for what I'm typing to you. From there, we kind of dropped out of that. And then that's when I found Twitch RP, which was just something I stumbled upon. And it was on ARC. And I did that for a bit. And it was all right. But I didn't know really much at all about RP at that point. I was just like, it was me, in other words. Just made a character name, and that was me. And that's what I did. And I didn't really dig it that much, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Just kind of dropped off of the whole RP scene again. And then I got back into Twitch, and not as a streamer, but just as a viewer. And just one day, I liked Conan Exiles. I played it. My wife and I both did, but I didn't really look into RP. It was just playing the game. And I started seeing other people playing Conan, and then that's when I came across the RP community. And I started watching different streamers. And, just given what Conan already offered, I really enjoyed. And then I started seeing all these mods. I had never really messed around with mods before or anything like that. And I'm seeing all this really cool stuff. And then I'm seeing all these really cool characters. And I'm just like, wow. And so I didn't do it. I just watched them.
Yeah.
And it was about, I don't know, a good 5-6 months of me just watching. And then finally, there was a server that was going to start anew. It was a brand new server. And they're like, hey, everybody's welcome and this and that. And they seemed so cool and everything. And so I tried it. And it was very nerve-wracking for me because I never used my voices before.
Yeah.
Really. And I was very nervous. And I remember the very first person I ran into, I created my character. I started running through the world of Conan and jumping into this RP. And the very first person I ran into was the owner of the server. And I was like, you know what I mean? So it was really... But what was really cool is I just went with it. There's the first things that were going off the top of my head, and I just went with it. And I'm like visibly shaking and stuff. I'm not a very personable person outside of it, but I can be if I really need to be. And but I was visibly shaking and stuff while I was talking to this guy. And then, I mean, finally the conversation ended. It was just him, and I ran and I kind of went and started building my place. And I took a break because I was just like, oh my God, what the hell was that? And I ended up going back and watching his stream later, and he was like, man, that was so intense. I'm like, really? That was intense? Okay, cool. You know, and it was like, maybe I can do this. And so I didn't come into RP with anybody, with the Conan RP. I did it on my own. And so it was kind of nerve-wracking. I had no one to fall back on. And but it really worked out because, you know, however many years later, here I am now.
Yeah, that's actually I think it's a common story. A lot of people say, hey, I saw some streamers or whatever, and that's how I started too. There's this really great dude named Pony Punch, and I watched him for like 6 months do 2 or 3 maybe servers, different characters and stuff, and then they, like you said, they started a new server, and they were like, we're, you know, it's one of my friends and it's kind of big, and if you want, you know, they welcome everyone. So I said, okay, I'll try. And actually, just like you, I met one of the biggest people like right off immediately, and I was scared. But I mean, that's the whole point, you know. You're playing someone else, and you're trying new stuff, and like at each time you make a new character, you're trying something new, and I think it's great. So that's really cool to hear a similar story from you as well.
I think it's like you said, it's a similar story. Almost everybody has that story, and I mean, my hat's off to people who actually started streaming these things on Twitch, because otherwise I wouldn't even know much about it at all. I can almost guarantee I wouldn't be doing it now.
Yeah, me too. I agree wholeheartedly. I have a question about that, but later. First, I'd like to, you know, again, I don't know very much about you at all, so I'd like to know more about your basis, I guess. How do you come up with characters? Are you the person who does all the like written backstory stuff, or are you sort of a more improv kind of person? Well, you just said you were winging it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's hard. I like to go into most seasons solo. So it's my own concept, it's my own idea. That's it. But I have gone in with groups. Like my first real jump into role play with Conan, I was totally solo starting off, and then I met people through role play. In doing that, people are like, hey, next season, do you want to come in with us and do this? And I'm like, okay, I did that. But the problem with that, and I believe it was Sandian saying it yesterday, is that when you go in with like a group of people and then they just lose interest, they get mad and leave, whatever, and now you're stuck with that concept.
Yeah.
That's why I like to have my own. And the last couple seasons, my wife, she got into Conan RP, and so we're typically together. But this next season, I think I'm going back to solo. She's kind of doing her thing, and I mean, that way you're not basing anything off of anybody else. I like to come up with my own characters. I do my own voices. I enjoy doing them. Names I typically just do from like a name generator or something, unless something just really pops into my head. But yeah, it's typically all out of my own head.
I feel the same, honestly, but I am trying to try new stuff. So I am personally looking for more backstory, more planning, more anchors, I guess, into other stories. And then I guess if people leave, you know, I'm just gonna run with whatever I've created or start over. I mean, nothing wrong with going, okay, this isn't working, this character died or this character left or whatever, so maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, you see people do that all the time. I mean, they just kind of whether they lose interest in their character or somebody left that was very key to that character, it happens all the time. I try to do the best with what I got, but there has been times on certain servers that I've gone in with a group and either the group just left or I just could not get into my character whatsoever because I was basing it off of too much of what they were trying to do. And I just, myself, I couldn't do it. I mean, it was just, I think the one instance I'm talking about was Mitran Templars. And I was just like, not really for me. You know what I mean? I couldn't get into the character. I don't have to be a leader or anything like that, but I have to feel like I'm contributing in some way to the story, not just your typical, hey, I'll go gather some iron for you. You know what I mean? I want to really contribute to the story. So sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
On your current character, I wouldn't say, because I don't again know that much, but I would not say that he's a evil or bad character, but he has the like stereotypical darkness or whatever. The hood is, I've never seen him without the hood. When you sent that picture, that was the first time I saw his full face, I think. And then obviously the Deathclaw are evil, sure, or meant to be evil. But do you have any tips for playing those, for lack of a better word, edgy characters or dark characters without going so far that people are cringing or being too stereotypical?
Yeah, I mean, it's, first of all, I mean, and this is my personal opinion, is you play the character no matter what they are, how you want it. You know what I mean? It's not. I mean, I'll be honest. Vissarion, in his original concept, was very evil. But it's just, flexibility is something else. I mean, sometimes I'm very flexible in order to get the story going in a certain direction or to benefit somebody else's story. But like for me, Vissarion, he was a vampire, and he was very much out for himself. But the story changed in a sense that the people made him kind of like the leader. And that was one of his main goals all along, was become a ruler, but he never thought he was going to be leading against the Deathclaw and that everybody would just keep coming to him. I mean, so in this way, I kind of changed his story in a sense that he wasn't just going to be, ha ha ha, let the Deathclaw do this and then I just take over the land myself. Ha ha. You know what I mean? That wasn't his thing. So, but as far as you play the character the way you feel that your character wants to play, because after all, you're playing because you want to, because you enjoy to. Why would you do things that you're not going to want to log in and do every day? I mean, if it's not fun for you, why would you do it? So, I mean, as far as what's in your mind about a character, go with it. You know what I mean? Try new things. Don't be afraid to. I mean, it could be nerve-wracking for sure. I've typically always played like the good guy. Vissarion, he's been on 2 servers so far, so this is actually a second season with Vissarion. In the first season, he was very much, he would tell you what you wanted to hear, but as soon as you turned around, he was like, haha, now I know how to get to them. So I mean, it's all in what you want your character to be. I played people who were very lawful. I played people who just don't really care. You know what I mean? They're just there. It's all in what you want the concept of your character to be, and don't be afraid to express that.
Chat's talking about like they're still on the ability to re-roll and all of that stuff, or they were. But just to sort of look at that, and we talked about making a new character or your friends leave or whatever. I have never played Conan RP. I'm from other games that are the same type, Atlas, Arc, survival stuff, but I've never seen a server run quote unquote a season or a book or whatever this long. And a lot of me and my friends, when we started, we had no idea that the story was so long already. How do you feel about the length of story, or the I don't know exactly what the question should be, but that length of time just available?
Yeah. You mean the length of the entire season then?
Sure. Or length without wipe, or some sort of concept. How do you feel about? I think it's 4 months right now, or
Yeah,
maybe even
yeah.
6 months was mentioned. How do you feel about that versus a month or so? Two.
Well, here's the deal. This is my opinion now, and I know there's others that believe that, but to each their own. I believe each server typically, you want it to be, if you just want to do a normal server where everybody can just get together, role play, have fun, do not much of anything else except for what they come up with on their own, that's fine. A month will do it. In my experiences, if you don't have a server story, a lot of times people just kind of lose interest. They're role playing with the same people every day and they never really do anything. I'm not saying that's the case everywhere. I'm not at all, because a lot of people love that kind of stuff. Depending on the game as well. Conan, in my opinion, is more of an adventure type game. So there should be something that everybody's working for or fighting against or something. And I mean, as far as the length of it goes, I know my wife and we're like kind of co-owners of Lost Legends. And one of the things that we said was like there were so many servers that we played on that you'd really start just getting into like the server story. But at the same time, you're trying to have, everyone's trying to have their personal stories. A month or two is just not enough to get it all out. I mean, not everybody's there at day one. They come in, a month later or something, and now it's already getting ready to end at this point.
Yeah.
So, so we decided, hey, let's run with this. Let's let people tell their stories. And then once we feel it's really time, we'll start pushing the server story more. Like the first, 2 to 3 months, it was mostly little things happening here and there, but it was mostly everybody's personal stories that we were helping as admins. People would submit a ticket like, hey, we want to kind of run this direction with our characters. Is there anything you can do? Sure, that's what we're here for. And that's what we did. There was not much of Deathclaw really going on, maybe here and there. But then at one point, we never expected to get very big either. We're thinking 20, 25, 30 people tops, not 80. You know what I mean? And so now it's just like, now the server's starting to chug, because there's so much stuff going on at the server at once. People can barely move. And it's just like, okay, if this is the direction this is going to go, we really got to start pushing the story at this point. Because if we don't, what do we do when the server just says, okay, guys, I had enough. I'm tapping out. You know what I mean? So
Right.
That's why we did. And so we started really pushing the story. And it was kind of unfortunate in a sense for people who just joined. They missed out on the whole beginning. And, their server story, their personal story didn't really get out as much as other people's did, because at that point, Deathclaw was starting to take over the story.
Right.
So, it was unfortunate in that sense. But that being said, I've had a lot of positive feedback and I really liked it. How the whole server season went. We didn't really set a time limit. We just let it ride to see how long what benefited everybody, because people will go crazy if they're on a server and it's down for so long. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure you've seen some of it yourself on any server, really. It's not just our server. But any server, like when there's like a big Funcom update, and we have to wait for the mods to all come back and, update themselves, and people are just like, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? And it's just like, we're kind of at the mercy of the mods right now. And they're just like, well, we could just do this. Oh, no, just calm down. It'll happen in time. So, so we wanted to extend it as long as we can, really let people get their stories out there, and also, participate if in the main server story if they chose to. How people choose to play is totally up to them. I mean, some people love the Deathclaw story. Some people are like, meh, not for me. Hey, that's up to you as a player. I'm not mad that you don't like the Deathclaw. You know what I mean? But it was all that kind of stuff that dictated the length of the season. I mean, or the book or the chapter, whatever you want to call it. It's all that kind of dictated how long we were going to go. We just kind of went with it. We didn't set no time for it.
Get this stream real quick because someone's having an issue. Give me 1 second. I'm not dropping any frames, and I don't appear to be having internet issues, so I don't think it's me. Oh, this looks right. I think it's you, or not. I think it's chat. Anyway, hopefully it's going well. On the other side, it seems to be from my end. If there's an issue, let me know. But on the server story, I had never played one that was, or I'd never played on a server that had a story like this, in which admins had direct power over the world. Normally what I've seen is, here's the lore, here's the setup for the world, here's the rules we'll enforce, and sort of the story, it comes from the admin, but it's not powered by the admins. So when I came to this server, I was like, oh, this is gonna be kind of lame, I guess. That was my expectation. I came just to RP. I did not care about the server story at all. And then I was at a function, the grand opening of the treehouse, which was attacked, and like the horns were cool, I guess, for the first time. I was like, wow, cool. But the explosion part, like being able up high and seeing like a line of explosions and then the enemy sort of come towards us and stuff, I was like, wow, this is more power than I've ever seen, to a story, to lore. I'd never seen that. So I thought that was great. And then watching it sort of blow up from there and people very involved, I thought it was amazing. But also, I definitely felt that my character had no place even existing for a lot of the story. And because I don't play games to play the games, I play to RP, right? So, do you think that the apocalyptic type of story, the army coming to get you, or the plague that's going to wipe everyone out kind of thing, do you think that leads to more adventure, like you said, more heroic characters, and the characters like what I normally play were, I guess, stupid, fun, they're nothing? Do you think it sort of pushes us out or leads us to not be as involved?
I don't think so. Again, like I said, in any RP server or anything, you play on that server because you like to RP. You like to do whatever it is. You're like what one people loves in their RP game, another may not. But that doesn't make one less useful or doesn't make one useless altogether. For instance, I never really got to know Barry much, but being what that I did gather from him is he was, he wasn't a fighter. He was a lot of comedy, and stuff like that, but there is a place for that, in my opinion, on every server. And, from what I can tell, just by Discord and everybody else talking and everything, people loved Barry. So why wouldn't he be have a place on a server like that? I mean, whether he fought or not is beside the point. It was the fact that your character was intertwined with all these other characters who did fight, and you still made an impact on them. And if you had fun doing it, then that's the major bonus. You had fun doing what you wanted to do. You don't have to go and just because you joined the server, like, here, you're part of the war effort now, get in line. No, that wasn't it. It was, hey, Barry came to this world. I mean, even the server lore is people of all walks of life came to these lands. You know what I mean? So that includes people who don't fight. It includes people who love war. There's people who they don't want to fight anymore, but they will take up arms one more time. It's all in what each character wants to do. Nobody has to do anything that they don't want to.
Yeah, I thought the server interactions and stuff were great, or the admin powered interactions were great. Also, I, for the first time ever, went into a game, this time Conan, and went into single player and messed around a little bit. That's not something I do or care about. I like to learn through RP and stuff, but I wanted to mess with something, so I did it, and I looked at the admin panel, and I knew that the admin panel for Conan is very good, at least compared to other things that I have used. What were your experiences like, I guess, being the admin in the world? Were there a lot of issues with like Conan and the admin stuff, or did you have any experiences that were, I guess, really fun? As far as I know, you can fly and you can like be invisible and all that stuff, or were there any like memorable experiences that you witnessed that no one else could see because you're an admin?
Oh, for sure. That was one of my favorite things to do, especially early on in the season. I mean, this is my wife and I. This is our first time actually having a server. So, and when it came down to it, I've played on many servers. I had fun on many servers. I had not as much fun on other servers. But what we did was we just took the good things that we liked from all the servers and added them to this server. Now, that doesn't mean it's right. It was just what we wanted to do. But yes, to answer your question, thinking that this would be a good idea, so we opened the server. And so one of my favorite things to do was to go invisible and visit people. They wouldn't know I was there, and see what they're saying, what their stories are doing. That way I can actually use something for their story. Let's just say, I'm just going to totally make up names here. Bob Genghis Khan, okay?
Yeah.
He's an old veteran, and all his life he's been fighting so-and-so, but that was in a land far away. And what if, you know what I mean? And I usually talk to him through DMs and stuff sometimes. I don't know if they want to drag in some of this other stuff. But it's like, why don't we make some kind of event that goes back to your past that comes to the present? You know what I mean? And we did some of the stuff like that with many people, just because I would go and listen to them. My wife, she would go and listen to people and see what people were doing out there, and what people were enjoying, what people aren't enjoying, without actually asking them. Because a lot of times as the admin, an admin asks you a question, you're like, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great. But you don't really get the full truth. And this way we can actually listen to people and see, okay, we made this little dungeon. Did they like it? Sure. Did they like this? Nah, these guys didn't like that. Okay, well, let's we're finding out that didn't really work, so we'll avoid that in the future. So yeah, I do a lot of things as admin. I mean, this season, and it's something that I learned, I did not want Vissarion to be the leader of the resistance against a Deathclaw, because I was a Deathclaw. I enjoyed being a Deathclaw. I enjoyed Vissarion, but I never wanted him to. I never wanted two main characters in the thing. That was never my intention. And so it was a lot of switching back and forth, as admin. Go to the admin hub, switch into a Deathclaw, go run around as a Deathclaw, go back to the admin, switch back to Vissarion. And it was back and forth all the time. But I heard Sandy and say the one time it came up and I was talking like a Deathclaw as Vissarion. It just gets to be too much. And it was because I was wearing too many hats.
Yeah.
It's something that I don't plan on replicating the next season. But yeah, I mean, as far as being an admin and using the admin powers for the server purpose, sure. But I don't like using admin powers for personal gain or anything. It's only to if think someone may be breaking rules, sure, you're going to go check on it. Stuff like that. But other than that, I only for server purposes would I use the admin powers, really. Other than that, I was a role player just like anybody else.
I think so. I've played a single day on 3 other servers of Conan because it never clicked, right? But what I have seen, because I sit in Discords and I just look at stuff, I think this is interesting. It's something I've never done. So I look at Discord servers for Conan RP and they're always so so malleable towards the player, and they're so willing, and I guess it's because of the good nature of the admin panel or whatever, but if there's 15 people on a server, the admins are fully prepared to give events to all of them and to make this story that can fit all of them in and give them things that their characters don't expect but fit, and they know all this stuff. It's really interesting, but that seems impossible on a Discord server or a server that now hosts, I would say, 500 people ish. Not that I've looked, but how do you broaden that? How do you look at events and stuff that are more geared towards everyone, broader from that section?
Well, I mean, typically, I'll tell you this. This last season with the Deathclaw was supposed to be totally different than what it is. What we did this last season is that we just went by people's choices as a whole. The Deathclaw was only supposed to be this tiny little threat that happened. You know what I mean? Maybe they attacked somewhere and that was it. That was the last time you seen Deathclaw other than doing your class quests. But the Deathclaw got very popular. And so that's what we stuck with. And it was due to the players. It's kind of like there's a consequence for every action. And due to how the players reacted to the Deathclaw right from the get-go, that took us in a whole different direction. And I mean, I like being flexible like that. But as far as player events and how many people are involved, I mean, some things are more geared toward just if they submit a ticket, hey, I have an idea, could the admins help? And they're like, I just want a handful of us to experience this certain thing, and can you guys do anything? Sure. If that helps progress your story, yes, we will do that for you. We've had events that affected the whole server, but it wasn't the server story. There was just an event that happened, and we just kind of went with it. And it actually happened at Shadow's Embrace. It was one of the guys that was in the clan. I don't know if you ever met Raz. He was doing something with a Nexus, and in other words, he fucked up.
Yeah.
And anyways, these tears started opening, banshees and all this crazy stuff start flying out. And I mean, it had nothing to do with the Deathclaw or the server story, but it was just something that we put out there, and a lot of people came to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we want to be open to all those kinds of things, personal experiences and worldwide experiences. So I feel the same about all of them. As long as it's progressing something and people are having fun doing it, I'm all about it.
I do know that the general consensus, from what I understand, is that all of the interactions with the Deathclaw were fun, and interesting or challenging or whatever. I don't know about the other events, of course, but it does seem like, in general, pretty much everyone, which is a huge number of people, all appreciate the admin work. They appreciate the server and the way it's run and stuff like that. And of course, you are anti-donation, which I'm cool with. None of that stuff matters to me, but people in RP, from what I understand, they click in one place more than other servers, I guess, more than they do in maybe a Twitch channel or something, and they feel like they're a part of a community, and that is a way for them to escape what they're going through, maybe in their real life, or it's a way to find friends or whatever, and they want to like give back and promote it and that sort of thing. Are there other ideas that you might have that aren't money that people in the community that you're in, can promote your community, or that sort of thing, like give back to you and other people that they know?
I get it. Yes, and but they've already done it. Because like I said, when we first started this server, we expected at maximum 20 to 30 people. But word of mouth got out. We did a little bit of advertising here and there, but I never went to other servers and poached people from those servers. The biggest thing I did, honestly, was I on the Steam forums for Conan, I put our server up there and we get a couple people in. But for the most part, it was everybody on the server coming and having fun, and then just letting word of mouth get out there. Like, hey, come check this out. You know what I mean? So I was happy about it. I don't know how everybody found our server. I really don't, but I can only imagine most of it was word of mouth. And to me, that's perfect. I ask nothing more from anybody. I don't accept donations. My wife and I cover the cost of it. That's it. That's all people have been trying to talk me into. Otherwise, the answer is always the same. No, I don't want to. I'm not trying to make money off this server. I just want everyone to have a safe place to come play and have fun. That's all I'm asking for in all this. And just be cool to each other. That's all I ask of anything. I know people are going to butt heads all the time. It happens. Everyone's got their own personality and stuff. But, just have fun. That's me seeing people enjoying what they're doing. That's good enough payment for me.
On the concept of community and being cool to each other, like you said, and just being a part of it, would you say that for some reason that I can't really identify, Conan RP and the Conan communities are more open-minded and more accepting of people from like any identity you can have, any sexuality you can have, any characteristic people think defines them? Do you think Conan is more accepting than other RP communities?
Well, it's been some time since I've RP'd anywhere else, so the only thing at this point that I really do know is Conan. But as a whole, I see Conan being very accepting of a lot of people. Now, hey, we're talking about individuals, though, and at the end of the day, how certain people feel as well. Unfortunately, that's just how they feel. Right. But as a whole, I see most people accepting one another for who they are. That doesn't mean, depending on who you are, that doesn't mean your idea is going to jive up with anybody else's. And there's going to be conflict. You know what I mean? We're all humans after all. But at the end of the day, at least here, any server's going to have their issues. This person doesn't like this person, OOC or IC, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be that no matter where you go. And at the end of the day, when we get tickets and stuff about that, it's just like, listen, we're all adults here.
Yeah.
Try to solve your own personal problems first, before bringing it to us. We're here to help if you're getting bullied or, something very bad is happening here. But it's like, come on, guys, we're adults. Let's act like it. Reach out if you're afraid to, or if you need something. Sure, the admins are always going to be there for you, but we definitely prefer you handle your own situations, especially when you look in and these people that are complaining or something are actually starting it in Discord. It's like, okay, come on, now you're running your mouth now. What do you expect? Go deal with it. You know what I mean? Be a big person now. Put on your big pants. You know what I mean? But for the most part, our community and many of the other communities I've seen within Conan, they've been very, very good as far as accepting different types of people.
On that Discord thing, that's something I ask a lot of people, because we're in a bunch of different communities with all the same people, and we see people say stuff in one place or another. I would hope that it doesn't affect our RP. I am guilty of it also, but I also try not to let it affect my RP. Do you think that talking and chatting and all that stuff in Discord and being yourself affects RP, or maybe even stream chats or any of that stuff?
To an extent, yes, I do. A lot of what you're getting at that point is meta. And even if it's not, you're missing out, in my opinion, of something that could be really good in character.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes the best reactions that you get are the spontaneous ones in roleplay as well. You know what I mean? You say something and people are just like shocked, or people have been moved to tears by roleplay. You know what I mean? And then people are sobbing and stuff. Why would you want to know that's coming? That's a genuine reaction. And I think that is amazing to have in in RP in general. I wouldn't want to know what, let's just say Barry and Vissarion go on to an island together, and they're doing adventure. And but Barry has this dark secret, you know what I mean? And so this whole time, Vissarion's like, oh, Barry's my best friend. Oh man, yeah, we go way back. And then Barry drops the bomb on him, of what he truly is. And me as ThePainTrain, if I have no idea that's going to happen, I'm going to be like, what? You know what I mean? So, it's all genuine, reactions. And I think that's great. And I think Discord and streams and everything else, it kind of takes away from that in a sense. Now, don't get me wrong. I love that people stream it. Like I said, if people didn't stream it, I wouldn't be here today. But I think learning too much meta through streams, through Discord, it really takes away from what the true experience can be.
It is difficult for me to agree simply because people only watch me for RP. The wide majority would not, because they're looking for whatever emotion all of the different characters can bring, right? So there are plenty of people who have been like, man, I'm just looking to laugh, so I'm gonna sit in your chat and chill. And I'm like, cool, do it. I'll try and think of something funny, and hopefully that works out or whatever. So I'm definitely like pro stream, but also anti-meta, which is this whole thing that's very difficult.
It is. I am very pro stream too. I'm not a streamer, but I'm very pro stream. I don't know how many times, I've missed something through roleplay, and it's a streamer that gets me that Now, I don't watch streams while I'm role-playing. It's just something I just choose not to do. A lot of it's next day. After I'm done RPing for the night, I'm typically going to bed because I have to work in the morning. When I come home, I'll sit there and I'll turn on a stream and see what happened. You know what I mean? And to me, that's very cool. just to see what other people were experiencing in another part of the world. Just like I said, Vissarion and Barry didn't really know each other well. So what did Barry do while Vissarion was doing all this stuff over here? You know what I mean? And so it's kind of cool. I can go back. Well, that's besides the point. But I mean, I have the option if you streamed it. You know what I mean? So that's I love streaming. I love streamers and stuff. I think that's great. But I think a lot of people, not so much the streamer themselves, but their viewers will use what they have as meta, and then it bleeds into the game.
Yeah. Kitty Pyre said they cried. I generally personally stay away from drama RP kind of situations because I play chaos and funny almost always. Even when I played my super sad emo character, I thought it was funny, and a lot of other people did, so that was my goal. It sounds like Vissarion being, especially last server, it sounds like was very dramatic or very serious. Do you have any tips for people looking to do serious and dramatic and maybe even touching or sad or any of those kinds of RP scenarios?
Well, I mean, it all comes from within. I kind of came up with a backstory for Vissarion. So just what he was, where he came from, I knew how I kind of wanted to portray him. A lot of it's done through research too. Not just Vissarion. On another server, I had an Avario elf named Bragan. I didn't know what the hell an Avario was when I started it, so I did research on it. And and as I was doing research on it, I found a lot of stuff. They look down on other races that can't fly and stuff. They're almost condescending to them. So the first thing I do, I mean, the very first day I walked in as him, I'm like, look at what we have here, a bunch of lessers. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's how he talked. And he just looked down on everybody, but at the same time, he was such a jerk, but people loved him. And so it's all in your imagination. It's you doing research if that's what you want to do. Your character is exactly what you want it to be. Vissarion, he joked a little bit, but most of the time he was on point. He was on task. If he had an opinion, he would say it. If people asked him for guidance, he would give it. And that was it. His arms were behind his back and he'd stare off in the distance when not. That was Vissarion. He was always thinking that way. He wasn't Mr. Party Guy. You know what I mean? He was just like, whatever. Do what needs to be done. And that's his demeanor. So, as far as tips, it's make your character how you want. End of story. I mean, no one else should ever dictate what your character should be like. Your character is coming from you. And I think if you do it that way, you're going to get the most out of your character because it is 100% you. Or coming from you, rather.
When you're playing your character and making your character, tricky. So honestly, it sounds like obviously you're just like the rest of us. Hey, you're an admin, but mostly you're just running the server, and the rest of the stuff is just doing RP like the rest of us. So, how do you feel about stats and gear and outfitting characters for Conan? Or, I mean, you said you haven't done other games, but that sort of numbers based play. How do you feel about that?
You mean like min maxing and stuff? Well, I mean, I have a case for it. I have a case against it.
Yeah.
When you play on a roleplay server, you're there for the roleplay first. Plain and simple. Conan being what it is, it's a very combat based game that we choose to roleplay on. While I don't really love min-maxing, getting everything you possibly can into your character, I see why people, and they should in a sense, stat themselves a certain way based on the class that they are. For instance, since we're talking Conan, if you're a summoner or anything like that, your main stat is always going to be accuracy or vitality, whatever one you want to put into it, because that's what you're going to get the most out of your magic with. If you're a berserker, you're going to want to go strength. You're going to get the most out of your character that way. Now, there's a lot of people who decide not to, and that is their decision. They stat just for role play, but to me, when you're statting for your whatever your class is, you're kind of still statting for the role play too, because if you're a berserker that's going to fight, well then why would you want to swing a wet noodle at somebody rather than the sword that you hold? So how do I feel about it? Sure, based on what the game is, stat accordingly. If you choose not to, that's fine. But you can't really make a case against it when you try to fight somebody who is statted for it and you're not. So Conan being the combat-based game that it is, I would say yes, I would go that route. But to each their own. If that's not what you want to do, that's totally up to you.
Yeah, I'm from Atlas predominantly, and you definitely have to play in order to build a ship or whatever. That's the goal, right?
Yes,
like, I'm gonna get on a ship. But having 2 years or something of playing the game or not playing the game as I chose, I know for sure I can play a character who never stats anything, never levels up, and the way I play this concept I have of leech character, I know that I can get enough in order to continue an RP for an entire season without any of that stuff.
For sure.
When I came to Conan, I thought, I'm confident enough in my abilities. And so that's exactly what I did. Barry had no stats. I didn't put any of that stuff in. I started at level 1. And once I understood what I was standing in, I realized how crippled I was. And like, if I had joined at the beginning of the server and there weren't enough people on to lag out all the animals, there's no way Barry could have walked anywhere at any time, because like without that lag I would have just died constantly and it wouldn't have made any sense. So
no, that's true. But that being said, you did what you wanted to do. You didn't want to, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that's the type of character that is in your mind, the type of character that you want to play, then there should be absolutely nothing that stops you from doing that, except for yourself. Granted, like you said, you get your ass handed to you no matter where you go by any kind of animal. A bunny rabbit hops by and hits your toe and you just fall over unconscious, but it shouldn't matter. If that's the way you want to play, then you should never feel that you have to do anything differently. That is your call. Granted, like you said, you're not going to get very far on your own, but if that's what you chose to do, then that's your choice.
There were actually a couple of instances where I had to turn it into RP. Basically, like I said, the number of people evening time in the US, lags out, or I guess on our side of the world because you're not in the US. But anyway, lags out the animals enough that I could, do whatever I wanted. But sometimes I would stay up long enough to hit that reset, and play afterwards. And then there weren't enough people to lag out the animals, so I remember this one specific time where we lived in the jungle in a treehouse. I'm on the bottom, and I come back after, the reset, and the animals are all moving, and one of the gorillas chased me up into the treehouse, like all the way. And there was no way I could kill it, and I couldn't get to my room to go inside. So I literally had to RP that, like, an animal assaulted me, and I had to sleep in someone else's room because I just couldn't do anything. So.
But that, I'm sure
good.
that made for a moment, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you had to explain that, you're like, like, just think about. I don't know how the whole scenario went down afterwards, but I mean, it's just like, Barry, what are you doing in my room? You know what I mean? Well, it's a funny story. You know what I mean? And so that is still good stuff, in my opinion. You know what I mean? This is Barry. Not very strong at all, pretty weak in all things considered, but he's the RP that you offer is still very much a part of his story, a part of other people's story. I mean, who knows where it all leads. It's still very much relevant to the rest of the server. That's my opinion. Anybody who has a story to tell, they're relevant. You know what I mean? If you're bringing something to the server, you're relevant. No matter how great, how big, how small, you play a part in the whole server story and the history of the server. So, to me, I think Barry, his character was very as relevant as Vissarion was. I mean, honestly, let's be realistic. There's people that Barry got to speak with and moved on a certain level that Vissarion never did. So, and vice versa. So if you can actually do what you want to do with your character and still entertain yourself, first of all, and entertain others, then, I mean, man, what more can you really ask for? You're doing exactly what you're setting out to do.
That sort of brings up, I guess, some actual game questions that obviously I could ask anyone else, but I would like to, I guess, ask your opinion about, from what I understand, there's a way to make bodies exist while you're offline or not exist, and obviously this server has them turned off. Is there an emphasis or reason behind that, or anything specific that is unique?
Well, I think one of our main reasons why the bodies do disappear is because when people are sleeping or anything else, people can loot you. And sometimes it just doesn't even make RP sense. Like, you're running with a group and the server, you lose connection, you have a fade aware, whatever. And I mean, maybe you weren't in the best place with the best people at the time, and you got something pretty killer or something on you, you know what I mean? And for no reason whatsoever, you just drop. And then they're like, oh, well, what's he have for us? You know what I mean? And there's rules against it that, I mean, if you down somebody, you're only to take one item from them. But still, it just, on other servers that we have seen, it just became a problem. People got very upset about people taking things from them and just random things happening, dragging people here and there. We just looked at it as like, let's just avoid that situation and just not even give that option. We played on servers that the body doesn't stay in world, and people just genuinely seemed much more happier that way.
Another game sort of specific, or I guess, game specific question. You mentioned creating, I think you said the word dungeon, but it sounds like you can make, I guess, through the use of portals or something, dungeons and all of that stuff. Is that what the freaking blue thing in the sky with the dragon is? And also, how how likely were you to make dungeons and stuff, and is that something you'd look at for a big community like this going forward?
Well, the big blue thing in the sky with the dragon, that wasn't us. That was actually in the game. So, I mean, we didn't create that dungeon. That was where Wraith now is. Nothing we had to do with any of that. But there are sections around the map where we will build certain things. I know maybe not you. I don't know what all you've done is, Barry. I mean, you were saying you
0.
didn't do, yeah.
0.
But there's actual things like during October and the Halloween months, we had like a maze that was made off the map, and people would go in and try to find their way through a witch's maze. Very difficult too, let me tell you. But you know, there's an adventure guild quest where you go to a lost temple that's also built off the map. You know, I mean, we like doing the dungeons and stuff. It's a pain, but it is something we're looking to do some more kind of things with too. A lot of the things, even like if you went to the market, you go through the door, it's not there. You know, I mean, it's off the map. It's kind of built like a dungeon would be, just at a much smaller scale. So yeah, I mean, it's something that we definitely like doing. It actually, we feel it adds our own unique flair to our server. We're not saying we're the only ones that do it. We know we're not, but what we create is our own, and I think every server should do something similar to that. Just it adds more, you know, something that is not in the Exiled Lands map, you know, but you created something that's now a part of it, and I think that's kind of cool.
Something there IT suggesting to talk about in chat is it's weird for me to say, but I guess I've done 3 years of interviews at this point. That's a long time, but every time I interview people in other games and other servers, we've discussed this idea of like actually telling people when something is rewarding an RP, when you think they're doing a great character, or maybe their voice sounds, you know, spot on, like perfect, or something like that, or just, you know, thanking them for their time, any of that stuff, you know. That's always a concept that someone will say, like, please do that. And there are some people who don't want, you know, to be singled out or anything, so that's case by case. But most of the time, you know, showing love, showing appreciation is generally suggested. And when I came to this server, there's an RP commendation channel, and that's something that, like, sort of blew my mind, that I had been talking about for so long, and here it was, not just recommended, but like it exists all the time, no matter what, even if no one uses it. And I thought, wow, this is great. And then I used it, you know, like I thought it was supposed to be used. And also I saw all of this meta described, like this thing that happened, the color of gems, you know, the flowers you chose, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, stop. So I sort of, I didn't read the long ones, you know, if I wasn't tagged specifically, that sort of thing. How do you feel about both sides of that channel and that concept?
Well, just like what you were just saying, I think that, I mean, if you have something that was that fun, that good, why should you not let the other person know? And even if it's not in the accommodations, if you didn't want to make it public, there's been plenty of times that I've sent people DMs, just like, dude, that was amazing, thank you for that. Or the accommodations that really gets, it puts it out there so other people see it, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we're all playing a part. It's, I mean, and the way we're kind of looking at this, our server, is books. We're all a character in a book, in a sense. Just more of a different look on it, but it's through a video game. I mean, we can actually see what people are actually doing. But you know, and I mean, you look at, I mean, take reading a book and stuff. I mean, there's been plenty of times if I actually look back on it that I've read a book, and at the end there's these characters that really did something amazing for me, whether they were the good or the bad guy. They made an impact on me, and you almost like you can identify with it, and you almost wish that you're like, dude, what you did there was awesome. That's what the accommodations kind of is in Discord. It's just like, you did something, you had a good time with these people, and you're just letting them know, hey, I really appreciate what you did. You know, the role play that you provided was amazing, spot on. Granted, I mean, it can go far with the meta and stuff like that, like you were saying, but I think who doesn't like to hear that something that they did or they provided didn't get a positive reaction out of someone else? You know what I mean? And to me, I think that's exactly what that channel's for. And for the most part, it's been epically good for the community. The community seems to love it. So they love being heard, you know, that, hey, I had a very good time with this person or these people.
Yeah, I also see a bunch of meta, and like I said, you know, kind of avoid it, but at the same time, obviously I only RP on stream. I never do it off stream. So people have the chance to come at any time and say, hey, that was funny or whatever, and I'm like, cool, thanks. And that's, you know, that's the same thing that's happening in the channel, but people can do it sort of at any time. So I also think the channel is great. I think that if that's something you don't want, just don't look at it, you know, like,
yeah. I mean, think of it, I mean, as like, you know, a performance, and then at the end you get an applause, you know what right. I mean? And that's kind of, you know, I mean, if you did something that good, why shouldn't you get that moment, you know, that people are like, dude, what you provided to us was great. And we're really, and it's not always positive. I mean, there's been plenty of times that I've seen conflict, you know, people exchanging words, and it's just like, conflict doesn't always, RP doesn't always have to resort to violence. It could just be words.
Right.
And sometimes that makes for great RP. And I love it myself. I don't mind it. It's one of the reasons I play a very serious character. But at the same time, you know, it's not the whole basis of my RP either. Yeah. But I think it should be commended when it's been done good, and both sides are very much enjoying what they're doing. Why wouldn't they commend each other?
Oh yeah, most of the time when I'm playing some dumb idiot character and there's two people and I think one of them's going to die, or you know, they just start arguing, but I know that they're friends or whatever, those situations blow my mind, and I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but I just sit there and I'm like, oh, show me more. I don't. Am I playing my character? Just keep going. I don't care. You know. So, yeah, I think that stuff's amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
Also, I guess I'd like to ask if you have any thoughts about the Deathclaw side of things. The aggression, I know you said that the story changed over time, so all I can sort of ask questions about is the end, because that's what I saw. But, you know, the aggression that came out of the Deathclaw and how people reacted, and I know that I saw them saying, you know, hey, that interaction with the Deathclaw was great, even though the Deathclaw is almost no character except, you know, violence and...
Yeah.
stuff. So do you have any thoughts about how playing the Deathclaw was on the server?
Well, I mean, like you even just said, they weren't supposed to be the big bad initially. Yeah. So I didn't really have too much of a concept for them going in. I mean, I knew I wanted a commander, And my original concept was honestly just going to be an attack on some place, and the commander would be there and two of his, buddies, his henchmen, and then just spawn in some normal NPC Deathclaws. And that's all it was going to be. And just an attack on some place, the people defeat them, oh, Deathclaws go over. That's all it was going to be. But through roleplay, it became so much more. I mean, it was just like, I wanted to build a world where there was consequences for people's actions, and somebody killed a Deathclaw, a group of people that probably shouldn't have, because the Deathclaw wasn't bothering anybody. And so because of that, there was consequences. And from that, it just caught on like wildfire. It was always, all the RP, even unintentional as it was about Deathclaw. And so I was like, well, this is getting very popular. We got to run with it at this point. Yeah. So it was calling an audible at that point, and trying to come up. There wasn't much character behind them, like you said. I mean, it was just like, okay, Deathclaw's here. You fucked up. Now you're going to pay. And that was pretty much their character. You know what I mean? It's just like, listen, we're here and there's nothing you can do about it. We're doing as we please. Yeah. And that was my whole basis for Deathclaw. I enjoyed playing them. I got to interact with quite a few people as the commander. That was a lot of fun for me. That was the first time I've ever used a voice changer.
Okay.
So it was different for me. So I had a lot of good times just messing around with that, and then actually having conversations with people. A lot of people ended up having, different points, just a little talk with them. A lot of people wanted to talk with him, but I didn't want to make him my main character. You know what I mean? It was just like, right, everyone wants a meeting with the Deathclaw commander. And it's just like, okay, he doesn't want to talk to you. You know what I mean? He has no reason to talk to you. He wants to kill you at this point. That's it. You know what I mean? So that's just the way I ran with him. Certain people, yeah, he would talk as he was fighting them or whatever, but it was no set plan for them at the very beginning, for sure. But as popular as they did, we just decided that, yes, we should run with this in this direction and see where it leads. And I think for the most part, I mean, towards the end, it was very exhausting. I mean, I know it was exhausting for the players. It was very exhausting for the admins as well. That final battle, that I was so done by the end of it. I mean, it went far longer than I ever wanted it to, but there was a small skirmish that had happened a little bit earlier in the season that lasted like 3.5 to almost 4 hours. And I was like, well, this is the final battle, man. This has got to be the most epic battle of them all, with the Deathclaw. So I got to do something special with them. Right. And I mean, 2:30 in the morning and my eyes are half shut and I'm running around as a Deathclaw and I'm just like, oh, I just want to go to bed. I've worked that day. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm done. And, but yeah, it was very exhausting, but it was very rewarding for me as well, especially when the people finally defeat the Deathclaw, because before then they just seemed like they were unbeatable. Right. And the people defeated them, and you could actually see the change in people once they actually beat them. And that's exactly what I was shooting for with that.
While you were talking, I thought of so many questions all at once. So I'm just gonna, I guess, burn through them, but I had to type them out because, was there supposed to be a dragon or something?
Yeah, there was.
Okay.
That changed. I'll give the story on it because it's not going to happen now. But originally the concept of this server was going to be more random events happening and just different stuff. Yes, we had an idea of a direction we wanted to go, but we wanted to do other things. And a dragon event was going to be one of them. Where this dragon just keeps flying over the land, and it was doing just that. People were talking about it. It's like, all right, yeah. And then one day the dragon just started talking to people. And it was being kind of friendly in a sense. I'm like, okay, now what? You know, I mean, it's a friendly dragon.
Yeah.
Why is everyone gonna kill it right now? You know, I mean, it's like, hi, a friendly dragon, and I just want to come hang out with you. So again, we had to change, and but fortunately, it wasn't long after that the Deathclaw thing came about, and it totally changed the whole direction the server was going anyway.
Yeah, I'm cool with and spend some time just RPing with, you know, NPCs and stuff like that. And and since I had never seen any real Conan stuff, except for the beginnings of multiple servers, I did sort of go and touch all the NPCs, and you know, one of the criers was talking about a dragon, and I, like, the whole time I was like, where is the dragon though? I don't understand. But it was something I had just missed and never came up, so that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we tried to stay on top of a lot of the town criers and stuff. That one might have slipped through the cracks because the dragon hadn't been around in some time.
Do you have any tips about voice changers? Because it's something that I look at all the time, and then I hate Voice Meter Banana and rage against it, even though it's free. So, do you have any tips for using voice changers and stuff?
Well, this is my first time really using it. I use Voice Mod. You do have quite a few options on it, but typically, I mean, the only time I've ever used a voice changer is as a Deathclaw. Other than that, I do all my own voices because I enjoy doing them. So, I mean, there might be better, I'm sure there is, but it's just what I use. And so, I mean, as far as voice changer, no, I can't give too much of a tip on that because I only know one.
That's cool. I do want to ask about the last battle, the forts specifically. I was there for only one meeting or maybe two of the actual like underground kind of things, and it was very scary for me to be in that. But so I saw the discussion about making the forts and, you know, the building committee and all that stuff. Were you and the admins involved in any of the decisions for design or any of that stuff?
No. You mean for the underground bunker or the forts?
The three different forts that wound up being the last fight. Okay.
No, we actually put that in the hands of the players that came forward.
I think that the way that fight went and the design of the forts was so perfect that it seems scripted, because having all of the people at one entrance would have been awful, honestly, in my opinion. And having two sides the whole time, the thing in the middle where you could retreat to, like, it seems so scripted that I wanted to see if that was true or not. And then having them circular so that, like, your Deathclaw presence could be running to the other side rather quickly so that you had presence on both sides. I think all of that was done super well, and I just wanted to ask, you know, how much y'all had, and if nothing, that's amazing.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic though. You know, I'm not going to say nothing happened by design. Not between admins and players though. I mean, like, let's be realistic. I was Vissarion and I was the Deathclaw. So I knew the ins and outs of it, but I played the Deathclaw as if they didn't really know. All they saw was a wall.
True.
But that being said, I wanted to make it seem like a good battle. I mean, at any point, the Deathclaw could have just came down and put 1,001 barrels around the wall and just bulldozed right through it. But I wanted to make it feel a little bit more epic. I mean, yes, me as the ThePainTrain knew everything about those forts, but me as a Deathclaw, I don't play it that way. They don't know. They know where they're at. They've never been inside, so they don't know the whole setup. So that's just how we played it, and we just played it as best as we could. I think what everybody did, everyone kind of came together in that situation and came up with the design, and kind of we through the meetings and stuff came up with how we were going to defend things and stuff. And even for the first part of that whole battle, I was Vissarion. You know what I mean? So I just needed an out for him, because the one thing I didn't like, and I never want to do it again, is this Vissarion was voted to be the head of this whole thing. And
Right.
it's like, so how do I explain why he's not there every time the Deathclaw attack?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I didn't like that at all. So that's what I told all the other admins when we started that Deathclaw battle. Vissarion has to at least start there. And I kept him there for a good hour, just fighting the Deathclaw as well. And then I just had one of them knock him off a cliff. And then I was just like, okay, time to be a Deathclaw. And but, as far as there was the fight itself wasn't really choreographed. Nobody outside of the admins knew what we were going to do as the Deathclaw. But at the same time, I mean, like, it was kind of predetermined how we were going to kind of do the attack on it. Because, like I said, at any point, the Deathclaw could have just busted right through the whole thing and ended it in 15 minutes. Yeah. But, I mean, it was just like, how epic would that be? Yay.
Right, honestly, as we geared up to the main battle, I was like, I think we're gonna lose. I don't know for sure, but it seems like maybe we will. But once I saw the forces laid out and all this stuff, I was like, man, this is really cool. The two sides was genius. Obviously, I've learned from past experiences that you always need an exit. So if you have an entrance, you need an exit. So two entrances make sense, right? But having something in a center with a portal, whoa, a genius.
That was the players. That wasn't the admins had to set up the portals, but it was all player ideas. So,
and what I think is so cool about Conan specifically is it's the mods. Obviously, someone made all these mods, but the concept of a player or a character being played by a player, obviously, saying like, hey, let's make a one-way portal from one fort to the other. At least, I'll get some magic people together and we'll bust that sucker out. That would never work in any other game ever. Like, there are no mods in any other game that I know of that would work. I don't even think Ark, with all its tech and stuff, could do something like that. And like, Conan is a great canvas, it feels like, for battles and war and magic and stuff.
From what I've seen, I did do some RP on Ark. Out of all the games that I've played, I mean, I could be wrong. There could be something even more in depth than Conan. But with the amount of stuff and the amount of mods that you can get for Conan, it's just mind-blowing, the things that you can bring to the server. I can't ever really, at this point, think about going to a different game that would have something better than what Conan has. I mean, their community, their mod makers have put in the work, they've put in the time, and they made it so we can tell an amazing story, not just with our minds, but now with actual other visuals. And the server benefits from it. Any server benefits from it. It's just, why wouldn't you use these things? I mean, it just makes characters look a certain way, changes maps. There's so much, and I think it's amazing. And Conan, from what I can tell, has the most options, the best options.
Just before we get to a serious topic, I want to point out that some people may have been not salty, but maybe confused about the lack of sand. I personally hate sand, so I approve. But
it's a love-hate thing. I've seen it myself. Some people are just like, oh, get rid of the grass, because I will admit, when I first ever played with the grass, it's very disorienting. From when you're used to playing Conan with the sand and everything, you start kind of getting landmarks and they change, and it confuses the hell out of people. Just like, wait, where am I? And you're looking at the map and it's like, this doesn't make sense. And you get turned around and everything else. Yeah, you got to get used to it. myself, I think it's amazing now with the grass and the extra trees and stuff like that. Also, you're also getting the dark woods, and I think that's pretty fun too. I mean, not that a lot of people use the dark woods, but it offers another place to go.
Darkwoods is that junk to the east of Hillcrest, right? I guess.
Yes, kind of.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, all along there. Yeah.
Got it. Also, by the way, I didn't get to see it. Hillcrest already existed when I arrived, but like community building a freaking like I guess tiny village into a big marble slab kind of town. I think that is an amazing concept.
I can't take 100% credit for it because I've seen other. Here's the deal, though. I've seen other servers try to do it, and people just lost interest in it. So, I mean, with us, it was like, well, let's make it so people won't lose interest in it. Yeah, I can't take credit for that. I just saw that elsewhere, and I thought that was a very cool concept as well. We just changed it around compared to what we saw before.
It's like a resource sink, right? Because I didn't actually do it because I didn't have anything, but that's the goal, right?
Yeah, and I mean, when you're paying out a ton, you're getting paid back, so to speak. So it was worth doing it, and not only because of the services that would eventually be provided there, it was, resources that you got back for giving the resources that they needed.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I don't have any opinion, I guess. Do it again or don't, whatever. But I would be interested personally in seeing, I don't know, variations of it or like maybe a, I don't know, place where people live, even though I'm pretty sure you could live there. I just never figured out how because I didn't know what I was doing. But
to live there, you'd probably just have to ask an admin, and then you just have to put an egress door, take down one of the doors of the houses, put an egress door up, and at your home. You know what I mean? But you'd have to have admin help to do like a lot of your, moving in for one, and moving things around, unless we never made a separate clan for it, so
right. Oh,
that's the only way that you could bring them into the clan and make it so they can personalize everything.
Okay, got it. I will learn more probably.
Yeah, anytime you got any kind of question, please submit a ticket, man. I mean, that's what we're there for.
Oh, I'm learning in RP. That's my goal. Anything I can ask a question in RP, like stats. I'm here to challenge people into telling me how to play the game without looking at it. I know that makes people unhappy, but it is rewarding to me personally. So my goal is to sort of I want to stay out of the way. How I got involved with the fighting didn't really make sense for someone who didn't know how to do like mechanically. So I'd like to stay out longer, but learn the game through RP, learn stats through RP. All that stuff is my goal. So
yeah, perfect.
I'll be learning about even just learning about egress doors took me so long. Like I was like, ooh, I don't, because you can't explain it really.
In character, it's hard to explain stuff like that.
Well, it happened in the market. The other Straculus, the female Straculus, whose first name I can't remember, it's like Victoria maybe or something, or
the wife Victoria. Okay, Straculus.
Okay.
Victoria
Straculus. That's how you say
Straculus. Yes, it's Straculus.
Okay, so. I was in the market and I couldn't get the mask off my face, right? And she said something about kits or whatever, and I had never typed anything in, right? So I was like, how the F do I do kits? Because I understand the concept. So I just start smashing junk and like asked a couple other questions, and it was explained well enough that I eventually figured it out and got all the gems and pulled this mask
I think I was there for that now that you say that.
You were, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that now.
But like there are people, there's probably very few, but there are people like me who don't know the mechanics and stuff, and we're just walking around. Yeah, I think Kitty Pryor was there too, because I had to
I
ask.
think all three of us were.
Yeah. Anyway, it was explained well enough, and I appreciate it. But like, that's the kind of learning I'm looking for, where
That's perfect, and
I
that's
just asked
honestly,
someone, yeah.
I really respect that you want to come into a game that you don't really know very well, but you want to learn it through RP. That is a concept that most people do not take. I mean, you look at Discord and then you'll just constantly see it in Discord. Hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? Where you're not doing that. You're actually taking the time to learn it in character, which makes it more difficult for anybody to explain it to you, but it makes it mean something because it was done through roleplay.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it actually is very cool. I like that whole idea.
Yeah. Just for anyone who doesn't ever do that, or learns ahead of time, that's super cool. And it makes sense to, like, if you're a character who fights, you should know how to fight. It doesn't make sense to learn, but I learned Atlas the same way, because I don't like these games. I do not like survival sandbox games, so I
Right.
had to, because I don't play them on my own. And like, learning in Atlas how to use a gun from another character, I will never forget it, because we just stood there for like 20 or 30 minutes and talked about this thing that everyone just accepts as fact. And he taught me how to do it, and I will never forget it. It's so rewarding. If there's any part of any game that someone wants to learn in RP, definitely try. And then if it doesn't work, then learn it. Then go outside.
Yeah. At least give it a good old college try first, trying to figure out through RP. If it doesn't happen, and I mean, hey, we spent 2.5 hours just trying to get you to draw your sword.
Right.
You know what I mean? Okay, it's time to move on.
Again, you don't have to answer or offer anything that you don't want to, but we did, a lot of us noticed that a ton of people were done after the fight, very soon after the last fight. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the wrapping up of stories in general as well?
To me, I've been around on enough servers that it happens just about on every one of them. It sucks, but some people don't have much of a story to wrap up on, as it is. I mean, there's certain people that are still logging on to that server. We're not the admins. We're working on the new server.
Right.
There's still people logging on just to do more RP. You know what I mean? Or wrap up their stories or whatever they're doing. Sure, it sucks for the whole community just to kind of die down, but at the same time, as an admin, I'm kind of relieved a bit, because now I don't have to, I can focus on the next book, the next chapter or season, and not have to worry about dealing with problems that people are having on the current server, which is pretty much at its end at this point. Yeah, it sucks. I'd typically like some sort of wrap up after the big event, but that's up to the people. I am just very happy that, like I said, I mean, you got to understand it from my perspective. We didn't expect to get this big, and to keep people coming the entire duration of the server being up, that meant a lot. That spoke volumes to me. So people leaving after the big event, hey, you're probably exhausted too, or you want to move on to something else. That is fine. I'm very appreciative of the time that people put into our server and came to our server. Just they chose it, and they stayed. Some people leave, some people stay, more people come. I'm very appreciative of the whole thing. Like I said, I never dreamed that it would get as big as it got.
So yeah, I also have never seen a Conan server that big. Not that I'm in a ton of them, but Like, that's a lot of people. And from what I understand, Conan servers max at 100 players at once, which, you know, you think, wow, that's a ton of people, but then there's so many more in the Discord. Has that changed your focus overall, I guess, for the goal of the server? Because, you know, as you said, when you came in and started it, you were looking for just providing a sort of scenario that you enjoy. Has that changed with all the new people?
No, I mean, my outlook's always gonna, I mean, like I said, when my wife and I started this server, we had a vision in mind, and we stuck to that vision for the most part of what we wanted this server to be. And I mean, in my mind, I mean, it's assumptions, yes, but I thought, you know, by going the route that we did, I think that a lot of people would like it. And, you know, I want to make something else very clear about everything, you know, because I would constantly have people sending me DMs or whatever. Hey, man, you guys are doing so much better than this server. That's not what it was about for me either. Yeah, I'm sure. Yes, I definitely love that people are coming to our server to play, but it's never been about that for me, in all honesty. And I mean, I don't know what the RP community is outside of Conan, to be honest, anymore, because I don't really play anything else anymore. But the Conan RP community has died down drastically from when I first started. And to me, why is it dying down? I mean, sure, you had your first, you know, your few big servers that pretty much ran the show, so to speak, and a bunch of small servers here and there. But you had these few huge Conan RP servers. But people were constantly leaving them for one reason or another, you know. But to me, that's not what. To me, the reason I started the server was to help the Conan community. I'm not. I don't see us as in direct competition with other servers. You know, to me, I see it as, hey, we need, as the community, Conan community, need those servers as much as we need any other server if we want to keep the RP community alive. What's good on Lost Legends and what some people might love about it, other people don't, and they'd rather be somewhere else. But the thing is, as long as we can keep that whole community alive, in Conan especially, because this is where we play, I think we're winning a battle. And not just Lost Legends. I'm thinking the Conan RP community is winning. The more options we have, the more places we have to play, I think the better it's going to be, and the more feedback you're getting. So I mean, it's easy to say on another server, hey, this didn't work over there, you know, and so why would we do that? A lot of it's execution too, and there's a lot of things. I mean, I want to see the community thrive first and foremost. Yes, I love that people are choosing our server. I'm very appreciative of it. You have no idea what it means to me. But it's not like I look at it as if I'm in direct competition with everybody else. I just want to see it all succeed.
Yeah, I think that's like a great message, I guess, you know, because a lot of us, you know, we're from different communities or, you know, something, and it's great to hear that your focus and everything is the community at large, even though you are only have power over your own community. That's great that the community at large is your goal, or your focus, or even crosses your mind, because I think that a lot of times people think this server versus this server, like you said, and I think that's wonderful. Are there other thoughts you'd like to share? Because it's recorded, and I guess you could it doesn't matter. Anyway, are there any other thoughts you'd like to share with, RP community people or Lost Legends specifically, or new people like me who have never even done this and are just amazed at all the stuff?
The biggest thing I can honestly say is, if you're coming into an RP server, I would assume you generally have some idea what RP is and going into it. You may not know all the ins and outs of the game that you're going into, but you have an understanding of what RP is. My advice to anybody is stay true to what you want to be. And don't be afraid of change. Don't be afraid of stepping out of your safety box of what you would always play. Be willing to go out there and try, and be willing to fail. I know I've been on servers where I created a character, and that character just did not click with me whatsoever. I hated it from the get-go. But I gave it the college try. I at least tried to make it work. And I found that, hey, no matter what I'm doing, I'm just not having fun. And if you're not having fun, there's no sense in you doing it. So stay true to what you want to do. Don't let anybody else dictate what your vision, what your idea is. Because when you do that, now it's not you kind of find that you lost something. Don't let people tell you how to roleplay your character. People don't have to agree with it, but at the end of the day, it's your character. So, they either accept it or they don't, and that is on them at that point. Within the rules, though. Let's stay. Your roleplay has to stay within the server rules.
Wow,
you know what I mean?
Admin. Okay.
But yeah, that would be my one piece of advice to anybody. You come up with a character and you make that character to what you want it to be. Plain and simple. It's your story. You tell it how you want to tell it. So, and don't let anybody else tell you differently. But like I said, within the rules.
Hey, I read the rules.
That's all that I ask. You have no idea how many times people come and say, "Oh yeah, it's the first question we ask, I think, in the waitlist. Have you read the rules?" Yeah, sure, I read the rules, and that day they're breaking them.
I'll admit I skimmed the sections that look like all the other servers, but I've read the rules on a lot of servers, for the record.
Let's be honest. Most of your RP Conan server rules are, you can put a lot of them into one rule and just make it universal. But there are some things that people personalize for their own rules. But for the most part, the rules of Conan RP are kind of like a big blanket.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Suddenly, almost 2 hours. Amazing. Oh my gosh. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I think multiple times, I appreciate the effort that you put into the server, or I appreciate it existing and everything that goes into it. I think your work's amazing. All of the admins, and a lot of the people who are clearly sort of taking leadership of maybe RP kind of scenarios, like trying to build people and that sort of thing. I appreciate all that stuff. So thank you very much, for sure.
I appreciate everybody who took the time to come to our server and try it out. Admins can build the server, but the people who play on it make the server. And to me, I am extremely grateful for each and every one of you.
This is not going to shock anyone. I have to pee.
You're not the only one.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break. I actually have another interview, so I'm going to run the intro and do the same thing I always do. But yeah, thank you very much again for everything.
Yeah, not a problem. Take care, man.
All right, thanks. Have a good one. Okay, scary, but we made it. We made it. It was scary. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. I'm gonna run the intro. Stuffing is coming, or whatever. However you want to look at that. LLRP. I'm gonna move this here. Panic. I don't know. Yeah. Like, for the record, I don't think any other person is necessarily scary, but streaming is scary, talking to someone one-on-one is scary, and the unintended messages you might give to people is scary. So that's sort of what I meant right there. Like, I would hate to make a statement, and like I'm not super thinking about anything I say ever. When I stream, I think about nothing. I just say, because you stream, you have to say things constantly to keep people focused or whatever, or you RP, either one. And I don't want to unintendedly make a statement that isn't what I actually think or is taken the wrong way, especially when we're talking about adminning and the whole concept of the server and things like that. So that was my thought on when I said scary. I meant the whole situation, mostly you and chat. It was terrifying. I'll be right back. Oh, there's a button I can hit. It's over here. I gotta move this. Thank you for your words. I'll be right back.